The city lights flickered like dying stars in the cold, dark night. The streets were empty, but danger was everywhere. Mara shivered under the thin, torn blanket she had wrapped around herself. Hunger gnawed at her stomach. Her boots were wet from the dirty water on the street. Every shadow looked like it could hide someone waiting to hurt her. She had no home, no friends, and no one to trust. The world had turned its back on her, and she had learned to survive by hiding and moving quietly. Tonight, though, the cold was worse than usual, and her stomach screamed louder than ever. Mara knew she couldn't go on like this. She looked at the abandoned building ahead. Its walls were cracked, the roof leaking, but it would protect her from the rain. She pulled the blanket tighter around herself and whispered, "I will do anything to stay alive, anything." Her voice trembled, but her mind was clear. She thought of the exchange she had made countless times in her mind, giving her body for shelter. It was cruel, but the cold night left her no choice, or so she thought. Suddenly, a soft light appeared in the distance. Mara froze. Footsteps echoed on the wet street. Someone was coming. She ducked behind a broken wall, holding her breath. Her heart pounded. Whoever it was, they could be dangerous. The figure stopped near the building. Mara peeked and saw a man. He was tall, dressed in strange clothes that glowed faintly under the dim lights. His eyes scanned the street carefully, as if he knew something she didn't. Mara's mind raced. Was he a thief? A stranger? Or worse? The man noticed her immediately. "Hey," he said, his voice calm and firm. "Are you okay?" Mara flinched. She had not heard a kind voice in a long time. Her instincts screamed to run, but her body was frozen. I'm fine," she said, her voice shaking. "You're not," he replied gently. "You're cold, hungry, and alone." He held out a hand, but Mara hesitated. She had learned the hard way that no one in this city gave anything for free. I can't," she whispered. Her mind was racing. Should she trust him? The night had taught her that trust was dangerous. Yet, something about him felt different. There was no greed in his eyes, no desire for anything, just concern. The rain began to fall harder. Mara's teeth chattered. The man pulled a small, glowing device from his coat. A warm light spread around them, and the cold seemed to fade slightly. "Come on," he said. "You can't stay here like this. I have a place for you." Mara's heart raced. She wanted to refuse, wanted to keep hiding, but the warmth was tempting. The cold and hunger had made her weak. She took a small step forward, then another. "You don't have to give me anything," he said. "I just want to help." For the first time in a long time, Mara felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. Could it be real? Could someone offer her help without wanting something in return? She wanted to believe it, but fear still held her tight. As they walked toward the building, Mara noticed a shadow moving in the distance. Something was watching them. Her stomach tightened. The city was not kind to those who wandered alone, even with protection. The man glanced back and nodded at her, as if he understood her fear. "Don't worry," he said softly. "I'll keep you safe." Mara's breath caught in her throat. Safe. The word was foreign to her. All her life, she had known danger, hunger, and fear. But now, maybe, just maybe, things could be different. A loud crash echoed from the street behind them. Mara jumped. The man stepped in front of her, ready. "We need to move faster," he said. And just like that, Mara's desperate night had changed. What had started as a night of fear and hopelessness was now the beginning of something unexpected. Something she had never dared to hope for: protection, warmth, and perhaps, a chance at love. The rain drummed steadily against the broken windows of the abandoned building, but inside, a warm glow filled the small room. Mara sat on a dusty floor, wrapping her thin blanket tightly around her shoulders. Her heart still pounded from the encounter outside. The man, this stranger, had saved her, but she didn't know why. Who was he, really? He sat across from her, silent, calm, almost like he belonged here. The faint light from a small device on his belt illuminated his face, revealing sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. Mara couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't ordinary. There was something strange about him, something that set him apart from everyone else in this cold, dangerous city. "I'm Mara," she finally whispered. Her voice was small, barely audible over the rain. He nodded slowly. "I know." Mara froze. His words sent a chill down her spine. How could he know her name? She didn't recognize him. Fear and curiosity tangled in her mind. How do you know me?" she asked cautiously. "You don't remember me," he said softly. "But I've been watching you, Mara. I've been waiting for the right moment." Her stomach tightened. Watching her? Waiting? The word sounded harmless at first, but the meaning made her shiver. "Why?" "Because you deserve better," he replied, eyes unwavering. "This city, this world, it doesn't care about people like you. But I do." Mara wanted to laugh, but the sound caught in her throat. People rarely cared. No one ever had. And yet, his words felt real. Could someone really care without expecting anything in return? Suddenly, a low hum vibrated through the floor. Mara jumped. The stranger's eyes narrowed. "Stay close," he said, voice firm. He pressed a small button on his device, and the room was instantly bathed in a soft, protective shield of light. Mara's mouth fell open. What is that?" she asked, awe and fear mixing in her voice. "Protection," he said simply. "For you, for anyone who needs it." Before Mara could respond, a shadow flickered outside the broken window. Something moved in the darkness, fast, silent, and threatening. Mara's breath hitched. The stranger stood instantly, placing himself between her and the window. His body was tense, ready. "They're close," he muttered. "You must stay calm." Mara's heart raced. She wanted to scream, to run, but she stayed frozen, watching as the shadow grew larger. Then, without warning, the window exploded inward with a deafening crash. Rain and debris poured into the room. Mara gasped, but the man's shield held firm. The intruders couldn't get through. "Run," he shouted. "Follow me." They bolted through a hidden door in the back of the building. Mara's legs trembled, but he grabbed her hand and pulled her along. The corridor beyond was narrow and dark, lit only by faint glowing panels embedded in the walls. Mara felt as if they had stepped into another world, one hidden beneath the crumbling city above. "Where are we going?" she asked, struggling to keep up. "Somewhere safe, for now," he said. They emerged into a large chamber filled with strange machines and glowing lights. Mara's eyes widened. This wasn't just a building, it was a hidden fortress. Screens flickered with data she couldn't understand. Machines hummed and pulsed with energy. Who are you?" she whispered. He looked at her, calm but serious. "Someone who believes that even in this harsh world, people like you deserve protection. And maybe, something more." Mara's mind raced. Protection, warmth, love. She wanted to believe it, but fear still wrapped around her like chains. Yet, for the first time, she felt a flicker of something she hadn't felt in years: hope. A sudden alarm blared. Red lights flashed across the chamber. Mara turned to see several humanoid figures approaching, their bodies metallic and moving unnaturally fast. Drones? Soldiers? Something else? She couldn't tell. The stranger's eyes narrowed, and he grabbed her hand tightly. "Stay behind me," he said, voice calm but powerful. They won't touch you. The figures moved closer, their movements precise, unstoppable. Mara's pulse raced. Every instinct screamed to flee, but she couldn't move. Then, the man raised his hands, and the machines around them hummed louder. Energy pulses shot across the room, creating barriers and forcing the intruders back. Mara watched in awe as he moved with purpose, every motion precise and controlled. He wasn't just strong, he was extraordinary. And yet, all of this power existed only to protect her. After a tense moment, the intruders retreated into the shadows, and silence returned. Mara's knees shook as she sank to the floor. The man knelt beside her, placing a steadying hand on her shoulder. "You're safe," he said softly. "For now." Mara looked into his eyes. Something inside her shifted. Fear mixed with awe, and something else, something dangerous, curiosity, trust, and maybe the faint stirrings of something she hadn't dared to feel in a long time, connection. The night outside was still cold and dangerous. But inside this hidden fortress, with this strange protector, Mara felt for the first time that survival might not be the only thing waiting for her. Perhaps, there was something more. And in that moment, she realized that her life, her choices, and her heart were about to change forever. The hidden fortress hummed with energy, strange lights flickering across the walls like restless stars. Mara still couldn't believe what she was seeing. Machines, panels, and glowing orbs filled the chamber, far beyond anything she had imagined existed beneath the crumbling city above. And the man, the stranger, moved among it all with calm, confident precision. You live here?" Mara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He nodded. "This is my place. Safe, hidden, away from the dangers above. Here, you won't be hurt." Mara shivered, unsure if she should believe him. People rarely offered safety without cost. She had spent her life hiding from predators, from those who would take everything she had. But something in his eyes told her he was different. "You don't want anything from me?" she asked cautiously. He smiled faintly, a warm, quiet smile that made her heart flutter. "Not in the way you think. I don't take. I protect." Mara felt a strange warmth at his words, but her mind still screamed caution. Why are you helping me?" "Because someone should," he said simply. "Because no one deserves the world you've been living in." Before Mara could respond, a sudden vibration shook the floor. Red lights flashed across the room. Alarms blared. Mara's stomach twisted into knots. Another attack? Already? The stranger's eyes narrowed. "They've found us faster than I expected," he muttered. Then, turning to her, he said firmly, "Stay close and follow my lead." Mara nodded, fear and adrenaline coursing through her veins. They ran through narrow corridors lined with glowing panels. Strange symbols shifted on the walls, pulsing with energy she couldn't understand. She stumbled once, but his hand was there, steadying her. "You're faster than you think," he said, his voice calm but urgent. They emerged into a larger room, a sanctuary of sorts. Soft light filled the space, and small plants glowed faintly along the walls. Mara paused, her breath catching. It was beautiful. Safe. Impossible. "You can rest here," he said. "No one can enter while the shields are active." Mara sank to the floor, overwhelmed. Her heart pounded, not only from fear but from something else, something she couldn't name. For the first time in years, she felt relief. She was alive, safe, and protected. But the feeling didn't last long. A low hum resonated through the chamber, growing louder and more insistent. Mara's eyes widened as the floor beneath them began to shift. Panels slid aside, revealing a hidden staircase spiraling down into darkness. He looked at her. "There's more you need to see, something you need to understand about why I protect this city, and why I protect you." Mara hesitated. Darkness stretched below them, twisting like it held secrets too dangerous to face. But curiosity, stronger than fear, pushed her forward. She followed him down the staircase, each step echoing ominously. At the bottom, a massive chamber opened before them. Holographic projections flickered in the air, showing the city above and countless threats Mara had never imagined. Drones patrolled streets, robotic enforcers watched every corner, and shadowy figures moved in ways no human could. "This city isn't safe for anyone," he said quietly. "But it's especially cruel to those who have nothing. People like you, they suffer the most." Mara's stomach churned. She had survived through hunger, fear, and loneliness. And now, standing here, she realized how small she had been, how little control she had over her life. The man reached for her hand. "But here, now, you have a choice. You don't have to give up who you are to survive." Her heart skipped a beat. Choice? Protection? Safety? These words were foreign to her. She had never had anyone offer her anything without expecting something in return. Could it really be true? Could someone care so deeply? Suddenly, a shadow moved across the far wall. Mara's breath caught. Another intruder? She turned sharply, but before she could react, the stranger raised his hand. Energy flared around him like fire made of light. The intruder was thrown back by an invisible force, crashing into a wall. Mara's eyes widened. What was that? He looked at her, calm and unwavering. "I told you. I protect. And I will never let anyone hurt you." For a moment, Mara simply stared at him, awe and disbelief battling in her chest. Then, slowly, something else emerged: trust. Perhaps even the faintest whisper of hope. You really mean it?" she asked softly. He nodded. "I do. You don't have to fear anymore. Not here. Not with me." Mara's lips trembled, and she felt a strange warmth she hadn't felt in years. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to let herself feel safe. But somewhere deep inside, a small voice whispered, danger was still coming. And she was right. From the shadows of the chamber, a faint, mechanical clicking echoed. Slowly, impossibly fast shapes began to emerge, their eyes glowing red. Humanoid, but not human. Mara's pulse raced. Her first night of safety had turned into a deeper nightmare. The man tightened his grip on her hand. "Stay close. This is just the beginning." Mara swallowed hard. The world above was cruel, yes. But the world below, this hidden fortress, this protector, was even stranger, more dangerous, and perhaps, just perhaps, capable of giving her something she had never imagined: a chance at life, hope, and maybe even love. The red glow of the intruder's eyes pierced the dim chamber like burning embers. Mara's heart raced uncontrollably, and every instinct screamed to run. But the stranger, her protector, stood firm, his body radiating a strange energy that seemed to push back the approaching figures. "Stay behind me," he commanded, voice steady but sharp. Mara obeyed, stepping closer to him, her hand trembling as he clasped it tightly. The intruders moved unnaturally, gliding across the floor with machine-like precision. Their movements were silent, deliberate, inhuman. Mara's mind raced. Who were these beings? And why had they found them so quickly? She had thought the fortress was safe, hidden, untouchable. But now, all her assumptions shattered like glass. The stranger extended his hand, and a series of glowing panels rose from the floor, forming a barrier between them and the advancing intruders. Mara gasped. She had never seen such technology before, pulsing, alive, almost as if it had a mind of its own. "They're not just hunting me," he said, eyes sharp. "They're hunting you too, and everyone like you." Mara's stomach dropped. "Me? Why? I'm nobody." You're far from nobody, he said gravely. You're special, Mara. That's why I saved you. And that's why they're coming. Her pulse quickened. Special? Her life had been nothing but struggle, hunger, and fear. How could she be special? And what did that even mean? Before she could ask, one of the intruders leapt forward, crashing against the barrier with a deafening clang. Sparks flew as its metallic body slammed again and again. Mara flinched with every impact, her fear threatening to overwhelm her. The stranger's eyes burned with intensity. He raised both hands, and the barrier glowed brighter, humming like a living shield. The intruders recoiled, then regrouped, circling around them with terrifying precision. They're testing us, he muttered. Waiting for a weakness. Don't let them see fear. Mara's throat tightened. She wanted to run, wanted to scream, but she forced herself to stay calm. His words, though calm, carried authority. Somehow, she trusted him. Somehow, she believed he could protect her. Suddenly, the stranger grabbed a small device from his belt and pressed it against the wall. Panels shifted, revealing a hidden corridor lined with glowing symbols. This way, he shouted, pulling Mara along. They ran, the sound of the intruder's mechanical limbs echoing behind them. The corridor twisted and turned, leading deeper into the fortress. Mara's mind spun. How many levels did this place have? How had he built something so vast and hidden? Finally, they entered a large chamber filled with holographic maps, glowing charts, and strange artifacts suspended in midair. Mara stopped, awestruck. What is this place? She whispered. He looked at her, his face softer now, but eyes still intense. This is where I keep the truth of the city. Where I protect its secrets, and those who are most vulnerable. Mara stepped closer, her eyes scanning the holograms. Images of the city, its citizens, and countless threats flickered in midair. But one thing caught her attention, a glowing figure in the center, almost identical to her. That's me?" she asked, voice trembling. "Yes," he said. "You're part of something bigger, Mara. Something they can't control. That's why they came for you. That's why I saved you." Her mind reeled. Part of something bigger? What did that mean? She had always believed she was invisible, powerless. And now she was a key player in a war she didn't understand. The stranger moved closer, lowering his voice. "You're stronger than you know. But strength alone isn't enough. You need guidance, and protection. I can give you both." Mara's chest tightened. Every word he said stirred something inside her, a mix of fear, awe, and something else. Something she hadn't felt in years, trust. Suddenly, a loud bang shook the chamber. The intruders had found them again. Mara spun around, her eyes wide with panic. The stranger stepped in front of her, glowing with energy that radiated warmth and power. "You must trust me," he said. "I will not let them take you. Not now, not ever." Mara nodded, though her hands shook. The fear was still there, but a spark of courage had begun to ignite. For the first time in her life, she felt that maybe, just maybe, she could survive. And maybe, just maybe, she could finally believe that someone cared enough to protect her, not for what she could give, but simply for who she was. As the intruders pressed closer, Mara realized one undeniable truth: her life had changed forever. She could no longer run from her fate. She could no longer hide. And in that moment, she understood that the fortress, the protector, and the danger, they were all part of a story that was only just beginning. The fortress trembled as the intruders pressed closer, their metallic limbs clicking and whirring with mechanical precision. Mara's heart raced. Every instinct screamed for her to run, but there was nowhere to hide. The stranger, her protector, stood firmly in front of her, glowing energy pulsing around his body like a shield of light. "Stay behind me," he shouted, his voice echoing against the walls. Mara obeyed, gripping his arm tightly, her knuckles white with fear. The intruders surged forward, and the stranger raised his hands. Pulses of energy shot outward, striking the attackers with incredible force. Sparks flew, metal screeched, and the air filled with a low, powerful hum. Mara's eyes widened. He wasn't just protecting her, he was a force of nature, unstoppable and precise. You can't defeat them forever. Mara cried, panic rising. I know, he said, eyes narrowed. But I can keep you alive. That's all that matters. Suddenly, one of the intruders broke through the outer barrier, moving with unnatural speed. It lunged at Mara, and for a heart-stopping moment, she thought it was over. Then, without warning, the stranger slammed his hand down, and a shockwave threw the attacker backward, smashing it into the wall. Mara's breath caught. She had never seen such power. And yet, even with all this, he didn't look proud. He looked determined, burdened, almost tired. We have to move, he said, grabbing her hand. They'll keep coming. There's a place you need to see, a place that can explain everything. Mara stumbled but followed. The corridor twisted and narrowed, leading them deeper into the hidden fortress. Lights flickered, shadows danced along the walls, and the sound of the intruders echoed behind them like a relentless drum. Finally, they arrived at a massive chamber. The walls glowed with holographic projections, showing strange maps, glowing runes, and what looked like constellations, but not of the stars she knew. This was a map of something far larger, far more powerful. This is incredible, Mara whispered, awe overtaking her fear. It's the truth, he said. About the city, about the world, and about why people like you are hunted. Mara's eyes widened as she took in the scale of it all. The city above wasn't just dangerous, it was controlled. Enforcers, machines, drones, all orchestrated by forces no one had ever seen. And she was caught in the middle, but somehow, she was important. Before she could ask more, the fortress shook violently. Mara lost her balance, and her stomach lurched. The intruders were breaking in again, stronger this time, smarter, faster. They've found a way to bypass the outer defenses, the stranger said, voice tight with urgency. We have seconds. He grabbed a small device from his belt and pressed it. The chamber's walls shifted, revealing a hidden passage lined with glowing symbols. Mara followed without hesitation, her fear mixing with adrenaline. As they moved, he glanced at her. You need to know. I've never trusted anyone before. But I trust you. Mara froze. Trust? Her mind spun. She had never been trusted, never been cared for without demand. And yet, here was someone, risking everything for her. Someone who had saved her life multiple times tonight. Before she could respond, the passage opened into a wide platform overlooking the city below. Mara gasped. The lights of the city were like rivers of fire, stretching endlessly. And there, above the skyline, figures descended, larger, faster, and more terrifying than anything she had ever imagined. They're coming for everyone who matters, he said, his jaw tight. If we don't act now, this city, your life, everything will be destroyed. Mara's chest tightened. Fear, awe, and a strange determination surged through her. She realized then that survival alone wasn't enough. She wanted to fight. She wanted to help. She wanted to stand by him, even if it meant facing death. The stranger looked at her, eyes softening for a moment. Are you ready? Mara swallowed hard, nodding. I'm ready. In that instant, the platform erupted into chaos. Mechanical intruders swarmed from every angle, beams of energy slicing through the air. The stranger's shields flared brighter than ever, pushing the attackers back. Mara watched, heart pounding, as he moved with impossible speed and strength, protecting her with every ounce of his power. And then she understood something she hadn't before: it wasn't just about survival. It was about courage, about hope, about standing against the impossible. For the first time in her life, Mara didn't feel powerless. She felt alive. And she felt connected. But the battle was far from over. The intruders kept coming, relentless, unfeeling, unstoppable. And Mara knew one thing with absolute certainty: this fight, this night, would change her life forever. The stranger glanced at her, determination blazing in his eyes. "Hold on," he said. "We're just getting started." The city below burned with a cold, artificial light. Mara's chest heaved as she tried to catch her breath. Around her, the intruders swarmed, relentless and unyielding, their mechanical limbs slicing through the air with deadly precision. The stranger, her protector, stood firm, energy crackling around him like a living shield. "This isn't just about us," he said, voice low but sharp. "They want everyone who matters. If we don't act, countless lives will be lost." Mara's heart raced. She had survived hunger, fear, and darkness her whole life, but now she was standing on the edge of something far bigger. Something she didn't understand, but she felt it in her bones: this fight was bigger than her own survival. Suddenly, a massive intruder crashed through the ceiling, landing with a deafening boom. Its red eyes glowed brighter than ever, scanning the room for targets. Mara froze. She had never seen anything so terrifying, so unstoppable. The stranger's eyes flared. "Go. I'll hold it off." "No!" Mara shouted, but he grabbed her arm. His grip was iron strong. "You need to live. You need to survive. That's the only way we win." Fear and panic surged through her. Leave him? Leave the one person who had saved her, who had shown her kindness, protection, and maybe, love? But he was right. Survival was the only way. The intruder roared, a mechanical sound that vibrated through the chamber. Mara could see the power radiating off it, enough to crush walls, machines, even humans. The stranger raised both hands, energy pulsating outward, striking the creature again and again. Sparks and light danced around the chamber like a storm of fire and electricity. Mara's eyes filled with tears. "Please, don't die," she whispered. He looked at her, his eyes softening despite the battle. "I'll be fine. Trust me." But deep down, Mara knew. This fight was more than skill or strength. He was putting himself in unimaginable danger to protect her. To protect life. To protect hope. Suddenly, the intruder charged. The stranger met it head-on, energy flaring in a blinding explosion. Mara was thrown backward, hitting the floor hard. Dazed, she watched as the room shook violently. Pieces of the ceiling fell, sparks flew, and the air burned with the heat of their struggle. And then she saw it, him, standing tall, every ounce of his energy focused, fighting with all he had. The intruder's massive arm swung, aimed straight at him, and Mara's heart stopped. "No!" she screamed. In a flash, he raised a glowing shield, pushing back the intruder just enough to save the chamber, but not without cost. A bright pulse of energy hit him directly, and he staggered, his body glowing painfully. Mara ran to him, fear and despair tearing at her. "Stay with me," she shouted, gripping his arm. He smiled faintly, pain etched in every line of his face. I'm not done yet," he whispered. "You need to see the truth." Mara's eyes widened. "The truth? What truth?" His hand trembled as he pressed a device to the floor. A holographic map of the city flared to life, showing hundreds of intruders, drones, and shadowy figures moving like predators. But in the center, a glowing pulse. Her pulse. "You're the key," he said, gasping. "The city, the people, your life, it all depends on you. Not me. You." Mara stared, shocked, the weight of responsibility crushing her. Her whole life had been survival, hiding, fear, but now, she realized, she had power. She could change everything. The intruder roared again, moving closer, faster than before. Mara looked at him, tears in her eyes. "I can't do this alone," she whispered. "Yes, you can," he said, voice strong despite the pain. "I've shown you the path. You are stronger than you think. Trust yourself. Trust your heart." The ground trembled. The intruder's massive arm slammed into the floor near them, sending a shockwave across the chamber. Mara's chest tightened, but she took a deep breath. She could feel the energy of the fortress flowing around her, pulsing with power. The glow of the protective devices, the shields, the walls, all of it seemed to respond to her presence. She realized, she didn't need to be afraid. She didn't need to survive alone. Not anymore. The stranger gave her a final, weak smile. "Now, go. Finish this. Protect them, protect everything." Mara's eyes filled with determination. She nodded, gripping the energy device he handed her. Sparks surged through her fingers, but she didn't let go. She could feel his courage flowing into her, his hope, his protection. With a surge of energy, she stood, facing the intruders. The fortress pulsed around her, responding to her will. And as the first wave of enemies advanced, Mara knew one truth: she was no longer helpless. She was no longer afraid. And in that moment, she became the protector, the heart that would change everything. The fortress trembled like it was alive, resonating with the power Mara had just begun to command. Red lights flashed across the city below, and shadows moved like predators over the streets. Mara's pulse raced. She had never felt such responsibility, such weight pressing down on her. The intruders were relentless, the threat impossible, but she would not falter. She tightened her grip on the glowing device the stranger had given her. Its energy thrummed through her veins, responding to her thoughts, her fear, her courage. For the first time in her life, Mara understood what it meant to hold power and responsibility. From the shadows above, the largest intruder yet descended, its eyes burning crimson. It moved faster than anything Mara had faced. Her mind screamed at her to run, but she remembered the stranger's words: "Trust yourself, trust your heart." Her gaze swept over the city. People moved below, oblivious to the danger, lives hanging by a thread. She could protect them. She had to. "Focus," she whispered to herself. Energy flared around her hands, pulsing outward like ripples in water. She aimed at the approaching intruder, her fear transforming into determination. The device responded, firing a surge of light that slammed into the creature, sending sparks flying. It roared, a mechanical sound filled with rage, and lunged at her again. Mara didn't flinch. She ducked, twisted, and unleashed another pulse, this time sharper, more precise. The intruder faltered, stumbling back. She realized something extraordinary: her emotions, the courage, the anger, the desire to protect, were powering the device. Then, a shadow moved behind her. Mara turned, heart leaping. The stranger, battered and glowing faintly from the energy he had poured into her, smiled weakly. You're ready," he said, voice trembling. "This is your moment. Finish it." Mara nodded, tears streaming down her face. She felt a surge of gratitude, awe, and something else, something deeper. Love. Not just for him, but for this world, for the lives she could save. With a deep breath, she leaped into action. Pulses of energy shot from her hands, striking intruders in every direction. Mechanical limbs clanged and crashed as they fell back, unable to withstand the force she unleashed. The fortress itself seemed to hum, assisting her, amplifying her power. She was no longer just a survivor, she was a force of change. The largest intruder roared, its eyes glowing brighter than ever. It lunged at Mara with unstoppable force. She braced herself, but just as it struck, the stranger stepped forward, channeling his remaining energy into a final, massive shield. The creature slammed against it and shattered into pieces of metal and sparks. Mara fell to her knees, exhausted, heart hammering. The city below was safe, at least for now. The intruders were gone, or destroyed. Silence returned, broken only by the distant hum of the fortress. The stranger stepped beside her, placing a trembling hand on her shoulder. "You did it," he whispered. "You saved them. You saved everything." Mara looked at him, her eyes wide, emotions overwhelming. "I couldn't, not without you," she said. He shook his head gently. "No. You did it. I only gave you the chance to see your strength. To see that your heart is more powerful than any weapon." For a moment, they stood in silence, the weight of the night pressing around them. The danger had passed, but the bond between them had solidified. Mara realized something profound. She had sought shelter, protection, and survival, but what she had found was far more powerful. Love, trust, courage, a heart that could change the world. He looked into her eyes, faintly smiling, glowing with the last remnants of his energy. "This world is harsh," he said softly, "but even in darkness, hearts like yours, like ours, can make a difference." Mara felt warmth spread through her chest. The fear, the desperation, the endless nights alone, they were gone. She had found strength, safety, and a protector who believed in her, not for what she could give, but for who she was. And then she smiled, softly, finally. I believe that too." Outside, the city lights glimmered, no longer menacing but alive with possibility. The world was still dangerous, still unpredictable, but Mara had learned something vital: survival alone was not enough. Only the heart, courage, and the choice to protect others could truly conquer the darkness. The stranger watched her, faintly glowing, his energy slowly fading. He had risked everything for her, and now, she was ready to carry it forward. Together, they had survived the impossible, but the story of hope, courage, and heart was only just beginning. Mara looked at him, determination in her eyes. "We can face anything. Together." He smiled, faint but proud. "Yes, together." The fortress hummed in approval, a sanctuary of light in a world of darkness. Mara had offered herself for survival, but what she had found instead was love, courage, and the power to change everything. The night ended, but their story, and the hope they carried, would live on.